talk about just the importance of social media, because I know, hi.
Hi.
Because, you know, some of you are on there, some of you aren't, but, you know, just the feedback you're getting and also just how it feeds you creatively.
Well, at the beginning of the season, we kind of had a feeling that we weren't going to be getting too much. We knew that the network only chooses to promote the new shows each season, which makes sense. Like, they gave us a very big launch at the beginning of the first season, so we knew we weren't going to be getting much of a launch the second season. So I kind of, my brother is a business consultant for MTV, so I kind of talked to him about it, and I was like, how do we do this? And I knew the guy at Facebook, and so I got all the casts together, and I was like, okay, you guys, we need to do something that we're interacting, that we're trying to generate some sort of communication and some sort of press to like keep us out there. So I was like, let's create this like Cast of Life Unexpected Facebook page, and we can all go on it, and we can post pictures and behind the scenes videos and just things that are fun, so people feel like they're involved with what we're doing. Because we are a small show. Like, the show is not about, you know, anything that's like racy. It's just about people caring about each other, which is not necessarily the thing that generates a ton of promotion.
Marketable.
Yeah, so we sort of started doing that ourselves, and I think that we found, like, we enjoyed that a lot. We thought that was like really fun, and you know, they got us webcams. But I mean, I think if the show had gone, you know, for a longer amount of time, we would have been able to do something similar to what One Tree Hill did, which was they really, I think, generated their fan base online, and that's why they've been on the air for 8 years. And when we did the crossover, one of their producers came over, and they said they were very active about that from the beginning. So we were trying to do that, but I just don't think we had enough time to really make it happen in a large enough way. Yeah.
I mean, I know that like Facebook, I don't do the Twitter thing as much. It confuses me, but the Facebook is something that I really to get on and to latch onto. And you know, to sort of pinpoint something you asked, it does feed me a lot as an actor to go online and to see what people are responding to and to see how I've affected people, because it's interesting. I mean, we're actors, and we're not in a bubble, and there's only so many things you can gauge your own sort of self-worth in the business on. When you are a performer on stage, that response is immediate. You hear laughter, you hear that you can feel the tension of something. There's a dramatic moment. You finish the play, and backstage there's people waiting for you to say thank you, and you feel rewarded instantly. With movies, there's a box office, and there's a, you know, fat paycheck. With television, it's an interesting medium because it's such a long, you know, it's a long story process, and like, it's not about the best product, because there are things that have been on the air for 8 years where you're like, there's things that have been on the air for 10 years where you're like, really? And then there's something like this where you know you're doing something special, and you know you're a part of something, but you're still having to fight. We fought for our pickup, we fought for our second season renewal, we fought for, you know, every step of the way. We were like, our slogan was not dead yet, no religion they could. And so getting on Facebook was interesting, because all of a sudden I realized that while our fan base was few, it was mighty. Like, we had these people who were really, really, really intensely passionate about the show. People started fan sites in Italy, and people started fan forums, and you know, and you get all of a sudden all the news feeds from China, like when the show debuted in June in China, and we were reading, like, so as a performer, as somebody who's a part of this thing, you're like, oh, okay, it validates you, it validates the project. So I find it useful.
Yeah, I think it's so different, and I think there's. I feel like it's mostly good, you know. I mean, it's been great for me. Like, I always just think, you know, when I'm a fan of something, I'm like a crazy fan of something. So it's like, what would I want if I were a fan, you know? And so that's how I always try to kind of think of the show. And so I tend to post stuff too, and videos, and you know, that I just take, and I don't know, it would make me, I mean, even just seeing what the cast did on their page, I would check it all the time, and I know them, but it made me really happy. Like, I mean, part of me, I just felt so proud of them for taking the initiative and doing it, and then being so accessible. And I think that our accessibility has probably been a nice thing. For me, there's also the downside, which I try not to go on, like, reading just comments about the stories. Like, that to me is the only thing that sometimes, and it's funny, lately I've been reading more and more because the show's done and I can't really do anything about it anyway. But usually I don't, because it becomes, as a writer, so creatively paralyzing to hear all the things that someone thinks you've done wrong, especially when you have so many masters that you're trying to serve. You know, the CW will keep the show on if you do this, and you've got to do this, and we can't do this. And at the same time, now that when I read stuff now, knowing that I can't go back and change anything, I'm like, God, I wish I would have had the ability to not be paralyzed, because it's actually also is so interesting to hear what people say, and I'm like, God, that, you know, there's some things I read where I'm like, that's really true, like, and I kind of knew that, but didn't do anything about it, and like, oh, I wish if I'd read that a couple times, like, maybe I would, you know, I don't know, it's like people make good points, basically, but I think there is always the balance between being accessible and wanting to have a very open process, but then also having to have thick enough skin not to take stuff to heart too much, and if you know that in times you don't, you know, for me, trying to be creative is not fueled by reading everything I'm doing wrong. Because at some point, you only, at least what I've learned on the show, at the end of the day, like, those decisions, like, I do have to make them, and I don't have someone to turn to all the time to be like, is this, I mean, I do, and I use those people, but still at the end of the day, whether it's good or bad, it ends up being my fault a lot of the time. So, you know, I said yes to that story, and people are like, ah, it's horrible, and then I'm like, ah, I fucked it up, you know, whatever. And so it's like it's just not fun to. It's more like if it's bad, it's usually my fault. If it's good, it's kind of a group effort. Kind of like that. But anyway, it has been amazing, and it's actually something I'm really gonna miss. Like, as the show's winding down, I'm like, oh, person who I don't know at all that writes a lot of nice stuff. I love you. Well, we do, yeah. And I'm like, oh, I was like, I love joy tweets. When will we talk? You know, I was like, you get attached. So it's been fun.
But it's a valid point.
Yeah.
Like, I was on that North Shore, I was on a TV show on Fox years ago, and like I would get on that before Facebook and Twitter were invented. You would just get on the fan page or whatever, and it was so brutal, it was so nasty.
You get so sad.
And it was really soul sucking. So it was like I'd get on and be like, wow, people hate me. Like, I don't want this.
I like being critical of like physical stuff, or like it's just like that's the type of stuff that I'm like, and like sometimes on Twitter I definitely like somebody will write something, they'll be like, you know, it'll be like, Lex is a liar, and I'll want to be like, Lex has had a very rough life. I'm like, you tried being molested and abused, and then see if you're, you know, sometimes cover things up too. Like, I was like, you know, sometimes it's hard, and you don't even know it. You know, I feel very like protective, and then I'm like, don't get into it. Don't be unclassy.